I was delighted to see Hartnell really pull up quite well from what was a pretty tough run in the Maktoum Stakes last start. He had to burn the candle at both ends, of course, and he was able to hold down the challenges and battle on bravely for second place. He will step out to the 1800 here in the Underwood. He'd be well suited. We'd love to ride him just with a little bit more cover this time, a little bit more neutrally from the barriers. And I think the horse is really ready to attack the line strongly. He showed real sharpness in a track gallop this morning, on Tuesday morning, and the reports from the team in Melbourne are really, really strong about the horse. He's just in great form. He's well within himself. He's been ticking over beautifully, but he's just doing everything we need him to do, and hopefully Saturday he can pick up a Group 1 for us and add to his tally of 11 wins in his career. It somewhat is running first up in a Group 1 handicap, the Saruba Clock here. He's been allotted top weight for 58 kilos, he's the highest rated horse in the race. But a couple of things in the horse's favour are that he has actually quite a good first up record. He can be an unassuming, free galloping style of a horse, and was able to win first up 1500 last preparation when not the top elect in a much easier race. Of course, he won the Doncaster. He was successful at weight for age in the Hollandale, and off the back of some pretty solid efforts over 2,000 metres last preparation, the 1400 metres here will be a really nice introduction back into his spring campaign. And when he gets back to weight for age company the start after, he's certainly going to be ready to fire. But we're delighted with the horse. He settled into Melbourne nicely. He had a Cranbourne trial a couple of weeks out from the run, and a little visit to Caulfield ensured that he would enjoy getting around the track after having a relatively negative experience there. First attempt at Caulfield when he was sort of bailed up between runners in the David Jones Cup last spring. Coruscate is an interesting 3-year-old who mixed it with some good horses at 2. He was, of course, the horse that loomed up and looked the likely winner of the Skyline Stakes at Randwick on a very, very heavy track, but just bogged down the last 100 metres and was beaten on the line. The horse, we're feeling, can train on well at 3, but 1200 metres here first up at Moonee Valley in a set weights and penalties race that will be a strong race is going to be a pretty stern test for the horse. We have just given him plenty of time to be fit for this. We've just waited patiently for the horse to come to us and to come to hand this time in. And if he can get out here and win first up, then I think you're going to see a pretty impressive horse for the remainder of the spring. If he can't quite get there on Friday night, then I'd be forgiving of him. But he certainly looked good in a recent trial where he, again, didn't like the wet track at Cranbourne. But he's going to enjoy getting onto the Moonee Valley surface, I think, and hopefully rip home with a really strong first up run. Toga Picta didn't run quite as well second up as we would have liked. He had a month between runs and was a little flat after the up and coming, so I'm prepared to be forgiving of Toga Picta there at Flemington. He was a bit wide throughout, and just to me looked like a horse that really needed the run when he was starting to falter on his effort at the 300 metre mark. I think that if he can absorb that run and he can go ahead, then he's really a chance to run top 3 in the Bilstott Stakes here on Friday night, and that'll lay a great framework and grounding for the colt to push on to further distances as the spring unfolds. He travelled out to Moonee Valley on Monday morning for a gallop there. He got a little bit lost, as most 3-year-olds do, you know, when they're experiencing the track for the first time. But I think he's ready to run an improved race. It certainly looks a nice race for him amongst a bunch of other up-and-coming 3-year-olds, and hopefully he's one of them that's ready to advance enough and go forward to be figuring in you know, those better races over a middle distance throughout the carnival. But he certainly looks in great order, and I've been happy with how he's progressed since Flemington and looks to have tightened up significantly. Kevin Tari's running second up here in the Caulfield Guineas Prelude over 1400 metres at Caulfield, in a distance range that should really suit the colt. He was taking ground off them late in the Group 2 Run to the Rose at Rose Hill. It was a really, really high rating race leading up to the Group 1 Golden Rose a fortnight later. We elected to bypass the Golden Rose and focus our target on Melbourne. If he can get the advantage of having a Caulfield experience before the Caulfield Guineas, that would be great. And if we see him do a few little things wrong on Saturday, from that perspective, we can be forgiving of Kevin Tari. But he certainly gives himself a really good opportunity under the set weights and penalties here to run a very good race in the lead up to the Guineas. And I'd like to be seeing the horse, deliver on some of the promise that he started the preparation off with. I would expect the horse to run very well, because he's just giving us all the right signs between runs. And if he can really toughen up between now and the Guineas, then he's certainly a Guineas contender. Esperance is running here in the Caulfield Guineas Prelude, fourth up this preparation and out to 1400 metres for the first time. We felt his run in the Danehill over 1200 metres up the straight was a solid one. He produced one of the faster closing sectionals of the race, but importantly he was just a little bit lost in the first half of the race, racing without cover. And once he finally got buried in behind them in the second half of the race, he was able to close off solidly, like a horse looking for further. In his track work since the race, I feel like he is looking like he's needing to step out in distance over 7 furlongs. So from that perspective, it should suit him. But he's had a good look around Caulfield in a track gallop on Tuesday morning there. So I imagine that with a horse like Esperance, those things are a little hard for him to pick up very, very quickly, and he's going to be better for the experience. Nevertheless, he's a good-looking horse, and he's already built up a pretty strong record. If we can forgive him for his 6th in the Danehill, that was where he was good late, he can certainly be an improver up to 1400 metres, 4th up from a spell.